Ever had one of those moments where, I don't know, you spill coffee and your first thought is, yep, figures, I can't even do this right.
Oh, absolutely. Or like before a big presentation, that little voice just chimes in, this is going to be a total disaster.
Exactly. That inner critic, we all have it. And today, we're really digging into something incredibly powerful, our self-talk.
Yeah, it's huge. And this isn't just, feel-good positive thinking. It's about understanding the actual mechanics of our internal dialogue and how it shapes, well, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
We've pulled together insights from some really interesting sources here. You've got the motivational angle from Mel Robbins, then more psychology-focused stuff from channels like Psych2Go and Therapy in a Nutshell with Nick Wignall, plus resources from PsychHub.
It's a great mix.
It really is. And what's fascinating is seeing how both the sort of get motivated approach and the therapeutic views converge on this core idea, that inner voice. It really, really matters.
So our mission today, especially for you, the learner, is to move past just noticing negative self-talk. We want to give you actual tools, ways to actively grab the reins of that inner voice.
Yeah, think of it like a user manual for your own head.
Exactly. Understanding those patterns, but crucially, how to shift them. Shift them towards something that actually helps you, builds confidence, makes you more resilient. We're aiming for practical steps you can try straight away.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. When we say self-talk, what are we actually talking about?
Well, basically, it's that constant stream of thoughts, right? The internal chat that's always running in the background. Nick Wignall from Therapy in a Nutshell puts it simply, it's just how you talk to yourself inside your head.
And it's something everyone does.
Everyone. Though, as he points out, some people are way more tuned into it than others. And the quality of that talk, well, that varies hugely.
Wignall uses a neat analogy, doesn't he, about how you talk differently to different people.
Yeah, like how you'd chat with your old rugby buddies versus how you'd speak to your grandmother. Different styles.
Exactly. And our self-talk has those different styles too. It can be encouraging or maybe really critical, analytical, sometimes even jokey. Just recognizing those different modes within yourself is a really important first step.
So where does the negative stuff usually come from? Psych2Go suggests a lot of it might actually start way back in childhood.
Often unintentionally, like parents passing on their own pain or maybe just careless, hurtful comments that kind of stick.
Yeah, they plant these little seeds, don't they? And those can grow into these persistent negative voices.
And Psych2Go really paints a picture of how that can feel, like being stuck in a deep, dark tunnel of just constant self-criticism. It's not just a bad thought here and there. It can become this ongoing state.
It becomes a cycle, right? PsychHub points this out too. Repeat those negative messages often enough, and your brain just starts accepting them as default truths, even subconsciously.
Almost like programming yourself, yeah. Right. And the fallout from that, as PsychHub highlights, is pretty significant. It causes stress, obviously, but it also kind of clouds your outlook. It makes it hard to see anything positive.
And leads to feeling helpless, which makes it so much harder to actually deal with things.
Totally undermines your ability to tackle challenges.
Okay, so we get that negative self-talk is bad news, but it's sneaky, isn't it? It operates on autopilot. Wignall and PsychHub talk about these common glitches in our thinking, these cognitive distortions. Let's maybe break down a few big ones, like fortune-telling.
Ah, yes, the internal crystal ball. It's funny how often our minds predict the future, usually negatively, and with zero actual evidence.
Right, like Wignall's examples, this project is doomed, or I'm definitely going to mess this up.
And the key thing there is the difference between, reasonably thinking about potential problems versus just automatically jumping to the worst-case scenario.
Okay, then there's mind reading.
Oh, boy. Yeah. We all do it. Being absolutely convinced you know what someone else is thinking about you, and surprise, it's usually bad.
Always negative.
Wignall really stresses how much anxiety and stress this creates, and frustration, even anger, all based on assumptions, not facts. It's like empathy gone wrong, jumping straight to negative conclusions.
And what about personalizing? That's another common one.
That's where you see yourself as the cause of every single bad thing that happens, even when it's clearly not just about you.
Like the example from Wignall and PsychHub, your work gets some criticism, and instead of seeing it as feedback on the work,
you immediately think, oh, they think I'm useless, or I'm a terrible employee, taking it all personally.
Then there's filtering, where you just zoom in on the bad stuff.
Exactly. You could have 10 great things happen and one tiny negative comment, and guess what sticks?
The negative one. every time.
Like Hub calls it like having a negativity filter built into your brain. It just screens out the positives.
Wignall also talks about labeling. How does that work?
That's when you take one mistake, one flaw, and blow it up into your whole identity. So instead of thinking, oops, I made an error on that report, you think,
I'm a complete failure.
precisely. He makes that distinction. It's, I did a bad thing versus I am a bad person. Huge difference.
And one more, maybe not always explicitly named, but we all know it. Emotional reasoning.
Yeah. The feeling that if you feel something really strongly, it must be true.
Right. Like feeling totally overwhelmed means I am incapable, even if, logically, you've handled similar stuff before.
Exactly. The feeling dictates the fact. So just spotting these traps, becoming aware of them, that's the massive first step, isn't it?
Absolutely. But then how do we actually start changing these patterns? How do we build a more helpful inner voice?
Well, the foundation, like Wignall really hammers home, is just awareness. Starting to actually notice those different styles you fall into. Are you always critical? Do you jump to conclusions? Do you ignore your wins?
Kind of like tuning into your own internal radio station.
Yeah. And noticing if you get stuck on one particular channel, as Wignall puts it, like always personalizing or constantly fortune-telling the negative stuff, just seeing your go-to unhelpful pattern is step one.
And Wignall's idea of actually naming the distortion, that can be surprisingly helpful, can't it?
It really can.
Yeah.
When you could say, oh, wait, hang on, that's mind reading again, or oops, filtering happening.
It gives you a little distance.
Exactly. You're observing the thought, not just getting swept up in it. And that space is where you can choose to react differently.
Okay. So you've noticed it, you maybe named it. What next?
Well, PsychUp suggests actively checking your thoughts. Catch that negative thought, pause, and ask yourself, is this really true? But what's the actual evidence? Is there another way to see this?
Like their example, instead of I'm always late, maybe you reframe it as...
Yeah, something like, okay, how can I plan better tomorrow? Or maybe setting a reminder would help me manage my time. It shifts you into problem-solving mode.
Which ties right into what Mel Robbins talks about, focusing on solutions.
Totally. She argues that successful people train themselves to focus on solutions, not just stewing in the problem. Every problem, every setback, she says, it's a chance to learn something, figure something out.
I love her question. What's the very next step I can take?
It's so powerful, isn't it? It immediately cuts through the overwhelm and puts you back in the driver's seat. And her point about whatever you focus on expanding, if you keep focusing on the problem just gets bigger and bigger in your head.
So true. Wignall also has this great point. Just because a thought pops into your head first doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah. It doesn't give it special authority. It's just the first draft.
Yeah.
You know, there are always other possibilities.
Which leads to another strategy, actively coming up with alternatives.
Right. Wignall suggests pushing yourself. For any negative thought, try to brainstorm multiple other explanations, even if some seem a bit wild at first.
And then ask.
Then ask two key questions. One, which explanation is most likely true? And two, which one is most helpful for you right now?
That's a great distinction. Now let's talk about self-compassion. This feels really central.
Oh, it's huge. Both Psych2Go and Wignall emphasize this big time. Treat yourself like you'd treat a good friend who's having a hard time, with kindness, support, understanding.
Empathy.
Exactly. Wignall points out that crazy double standard we often have, being so much tougher on ourselves than we'd ever dream of being on anyone else.
He suggests actually trying it out, right?
Yeah.
Like practice self-compassion for a week.
Yeah, just as an experiment to see what happens, how it feels. It can be transformative.
And Mel Robbins, she's big on using positive affirmations intentionally.
Very big. She talks about consciously deciding how you're going to talk to yourself right from the moment you wake up. Using powerful statements.
Like what sort of things?
Things like, I am in control of my life. I am capable of great things. I choose to focus on solutions. I will not let fear stop me. I am worthy. I am resilient. You know, that kind of stuff.
And she says to say them out loud.
Yeah, she really emphasizes that. The idea is that the words you speak become the thoughts you believe. Vocalizing them gives them more power.
And repeating that kind of positive self-talk builds resilience, right?
Wow.
Creates momentum.
Absolutely. Like her own example of repeating something amazing that hasn't happened yet is coming. It reprograms your focus.
She also tackles fear head on.
She reminds us fear is just a feeling. It's not necessarily reality. Often it's about discomfort or uncertainty, not actual danger to your survival.
Her big message is don't let that feeling paralyze you.
Exactly. Don't let it dictate your choices and keep you stuck. She often says fear shrinks when you take action. Courage isn't not feeling fear, it's feeling it and moving anyway.
Fear as a signal for growth, not a stop sign.
Precisely. Everything you want is often just on the other side of that feeling.
Linked to that is self-worth. Robbins is really clear on this.
Very clear. Your worth isn't conditional. You're worthy of good things, love, success, happiness, just as you are, period. You don't have to earn it or get someone else's approval.
So start acting like someone who deserves good things.
Yeah. And challenge that belief, which Psych2Go also flags, that your worth depends on what you achieve or what others think.
Robbins also talks a lot about taking control, taking responsibility.
That you are ultimately in control of your thoughts, choices, mindset, actions. Stop blaming circumstances, she says, and take ownership.
Because every decision shapes your future.
Right. And if you don't like where you are, make different choices. But crucially, back up the positive thoughts with action. Mindset is vital, but it's not enough on its own.
Even small actions count.
Especially small actions, they build momentum.
And remembering our own strengths seems important too.
Definitely. Robbins encourages us to remind ourselves, I am stronger than I think. Think about it. You've survived 100% of your worst days, right?
That's a powerful thought.
You've overcome things you probably thought would break you. Acknowledging those wins, that resilience you've already built, that fuels you for current challenges. Challenges make you stronger.
Wignall and PsychHub also bring up identifying triggers. That seems practical.
Very practical. Knowing what situations or people or even environments tend to kick off your negative self-talk.
Lets you anticipate and maybe manage your reaction better.
Exactly. And PsychHub adds some other useful tips too, like consciously surrounding yourself with positive people.
Makes sense. And the basics, like self-care.
Yeah, exercise, healthy eating, they always come up because they genuinely help regulate mood and thinking. And finding humor in situations, that can help too.
And finally, Wignall brings back to curiosity.
Yes. When you notice those negative thoughts or strong feelings bubbling up, instead of judging yourself.
Just get curious.
Yeah. Like, that's interesting. Why did my brain just serve that up?
It creates that little bit of space again, allows you to choose a more helpful perspective.
So wrapping this all up, it feels like the big message is that self-talk, even though it often feels automatic, is actually something we can influence. We can learn to shape it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've seen how crucial awareness is just noticing what's going on in your head. Then challenging those negative patterns, shifting focus to solutions, practicing self-compassion.
And maybe using positive affirmations intentionally.
Right. All these strategies work together.
And for you, the learner, getting a handle on this stuff, putting these ideas into practice, it really can change things. It can mean feeling more in control, more confident, definitely more resilient when things get tough.
It genuinely empowers you to navigate life more effectively.
So here's something to think about. Over the next day or so, really try to listen in on your own internal chat. What patterns jump out at you?
And then what's maybe one small shift, one little experiment in self-talk you could try right now, just to nudge that inner environment in a more supportive direction.
Yeah, consider that. How could consciously shaping that voice inside your head unlock possibilities, maybe a sense of capability that you haven't even imagined yet?